Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Friday, the 7th day of February. Here we go. This is part one about checking your mezuzos. You've probably heard the general rule, which is that a person should try to have his mezuzos checked twice every 7 years. You could call that every 3.5 years, but it also doesn't have to be exactly 3.5 years. But the general guideline is like twice every 7 years. There are a lot of people who are lax about this and they don't do it that often, and that's not really all that proper. You might feel like, well, it's okay. I bought them from a sofer. He checked them before he put them in. We wrapped it in tight plastic, and then we put it in my mezuzah case. So why should I ever need to check them again? The main reason why mezuzahs need checking, if they were checked before they were put in really carefully by a good sofer, is because the elements can damage a mezuzah. So even though they were properly inspected before they were put in, they still need to be checked because things could have happened. There's exposure to sunlight if it's an outdoor mezuzah on your front door, exposure to paint from the painter, exposure to humidity, and all kinds of things like that. And that's why we try to check our mezuzahs every 3.5 years. There are some people who are more meticulous about this. According to the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it's meticulous people check them every Elul, and that would not be considered a wrong thing to do. According to a Tshuvas Mario, it is an appropriate thing to check your mezuzahs if, God forbid, some bad has happened to a person or his family. Then checking the mezuzahs to see if there's some flaw in them is not a bad idea at all, says the Tshuvas Mario. Now, some people delay the checking of the mezuzahs because they say, well, the only guy in this city who maybe would check them is going to take them away from me for days, and I don't want to really be without my mezuzahs for that long. And first of all, that's not always true. There are a lot of people who will come and check them right there for you at your house and do them all at one time, and you wouldn't really have a problem with your mezuzahs being gone. But here's another thing that a lot of people don't know, and that is, if you know that your mezuzahs were reliably bought and checked over before they were put in the mezuzah cases, so that there's definitely not a mistake in them because someone very good at checking mezuzahs checked your mezuzahs, then here's the kicker. You might not know this. You can check your mezuzah even though you're no expert. Why? Because all the words were perfect. A good checker checked them, and now all you're doing is opening them up a couple of years later and seeing if anything seems to have changed. You read it over very carefully. You might want to check against a sitter, but what you're really checking for is to see that nothing faded or got ruined, or no paint from a paint job dripped into the mezuzah. And if everything looks okay to your eye, and a good checker has checked them and knew that all the letters and wording were exactly right, then all you need to be checking is that no damage happened. You can do that. Seriously, that's the halacha. Make sure that you see no fading. If you see any fading, then bring it to a rabbi and say, how's this? Do I have to worry about this? But if you see no fading and all the letters as you carefully look at it seem totally perfect, then you're fine because someone really good checked them before, if that's what happened. So the letters were all right, the words were all right. You know that because Rabbi so-and-so, the checker, checked them for you 2 years ago. All you're checking is that whether the humidity or rain or painting or anything has faded anything. And an untrained eye can do that part. That's what the halacha says. Okay, I'm not making up something new here. An untrained eye can do that if a good checker has checked them before. You're just checking if any damage happened since that last checking. So if you're desperate, you can do that yourself. I still, of course, recommend that you get a real checker to check them. But if you're desperate, you can check them yourself, assuming that they had been checked before, and you're just making sure that no damage has happened. More to follow after Shabbos, so please log on again after Shabbos for more. Bye-bye.